Hey, it's Alan, and I just wanted to let you know that you can now listen to the ongoing history of new music early and ad-free on Amazon Music, included with Prime.
If you've ever seen Sum 41 perform live, you know that they seem larger than life. Big, loud, brash, in your face, very punk rock. And out front is Deryck Whibley. He's like a man possessed. It all makes for a great, great show. But in person, Deryck is life-sized. He moves carefully, takes great care to sit up straight because of a chronically bad back. And the way he drinks his tea can almost make him appear delicate. But when it comes to a conversation about Sum 41 and their career, he's super engaged. As the only permanent member in the history of Sum 41, he basically is the band. So when I wanted to talk about where this group came from and how things have evolved over a quarter century, he's really the only guy I need to talk to. And man, did we talk. This is the Sum 41 story, according to frontman Deryck Whibley, Part 1.
This is the Ongoing History of New Music podcast with Alan Cross.
And so the story goes that we're left, we're stuck with a broken house. I know that if I had the chance, I'd let.
Sum 41, of course, with Deryck Whibley out front. He's the singer, he's the songwriter, he's the face of the band, and the guy by whom Sum 41 lives and dies. And yeah, the band almost died because he almost did. There's a lot to the Sum 41 story, and Deryck was more than happy to take me through it. And away we go.
Let's start at the absolute beginning. So you're a GTA boy. Mm-hmm. You're from the Whitby area, and...
Depends on where, yes, sort of.
Where exactly?
So I was born and raised in Scarborough, and then moved out to Ajax when I was about 12. So I had most of my high school teen years were in Ajax.
When did you get into music?
I got into music probably when I was about 6 years old. That's when I can remember when I felt like I thought I was going to be a musician, about 6 or 7 years old.
What was the thing that did it?
I was really obsessed with the Monkees television show, the Beatles music, and I just happened to get, I don't know if everyone got this, but in the 80s, I remember that when you went to a gas station and you filled up a certain amount, you would get these cassette tapes as like, once you hit a certain amount of gas. And it was like, they were 50s and 60s revival hits is what they were called.
I remember those,
Exactly,
yeah.
right? So that's what got me into music around 1986 when I was 6 years old. And I just fell in love with those cassettes. And then the Monkees television show, and the Beatles, and stuff like that. So also then soon after that, there was a movie called La Bamba, and the Richie Valens story, and that was I think in '87, so I would have been 7, and I just fell in love with that movie, and I just thought I want to play guitar.
When did you get your first guitar?
Well, I got a fake guitar around that age, about 8 years old, and then when I got a real guitar, I was about 13.
When did you start actually getting into bands?
13. As soon as I got a guitar, I instantly started playing and just found other people who were kind of playing some instruments around town and just formed a band.
This is in Ajax?
This is in Ajax, so it was about 8th grade.
So the bands that came before Sum 41 were?
The early bands, the first band I was ever in was a band called Eternal Death.
Of course.
And then after that, it was a band called Chemical Head. And then after that, a band called Casper. And then that band turned into Sum 41.
Because you formed the band 41 days into your summer vacation?
41 into the summer vacation, true, yes. That was the day the Warped Tour came through our area.
So that would be, let me guess, 96?
It was 96, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so who was in the band at that time?
At the time when we started Sum 41, it was Steve-O, me, a guy named Grant McVitie, and a guy named John Marshall.
I remember there was you and another band called Serial Joe at the time.
Yeah.
And you guys were both these sort of up-and-coming, ridiculously young bands, ridiculously talented bands that had a chance at doing something really cool. So how did you go from being, a bunch of guys in Ajax to getting this record deal?
I think the biggest thing that happened to us was we somehow became friends with Greg Norrie and Mark Costanzo.
So Greg Norrie from Treble Charger
and Mark Costanzo of Len. And both of them came to our very first show. I'd met Greg Norrie because I snuck backstage when I was about 16 or 15, something like that, to a Treble Charger show. And I said, hey, I got this band. We have our first show coming up. Would you come to the show? And he said, sure, I'll come. He brought Mark Costanzo. And over the next year or two, they both just kind of helped us out, recorded us, gave us, we did some demos and stuff like that. They gave us some advice and brought us on tour, and we played some shows with both bands, stuff like that. And
now that's moving pretty fast.
Yeah.
But then I guess at that time in the 90s, Canadian rock and punk was growing really, really quick.
I guess so. I mean, to me, when you're that young, a whole year feels like 10 years. It feels like a decade, so it felt like we'd been a band for so long for those first 2 years and done so much, even though we hadn't. It probably blew by really quickly. But it just seemed like we were growing, and also band members were coming and going. It was just Steve-O and I still, but so many different bass players were coming in and out, and stuff like that. We asked Dave to come into the band a couple times, and he kept refusing.
He was with another band.
Yeah, he was playing with a much heavier band. And then he didn't join till 1998, so... And then Cohn didn't come till 1999.
Let's sample something from those early days. This is a recording from that 1998 demo. The track is Summer.
Whoa, you don't even know. It's not in what you do, more in what you say. It's not in what you do, more in what you say. It's not in what you do, more in
So
what you
the first album comes out when? Or what was your first release?
The first real release that was on a record company was Half Hour Power. That was in 2000.
Was that with Aquarius?
It was with Aquarius,
Okay,
yes.
so Aquarius is this well-known Canadian independent record label that goes all the way back to the 70s at least.
Yeah,
with,
April Wine.
April Wine
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Corey Hart and
Yeah.
so on. How did you get their attention?
We were playing a few shows around town. I know we were playing at the Alma Combo one night, and somebody from Aquarius Records was there. And this was kind of before we had any real attention from any other labels. And they reached out to us, and we were just in the process of sending out music to record companies. So we had told them, that's great. We're really thrilled that you guys were interested, but we have to be honest, we're also sending stuff out right now. So we want to wait and see what what the reaction is. So we did that. The reaction was mixed at first, and then it got better, and then it turned into a bidding war for some reason. Like, everything just sort of changed from what it was.
Did you have a manager at this time?
Greg Norrie was our manager.
Oh, okay.
And we had a lot of help through Michael McCarty at EMI Publishing. He had signed me as well when I was about 17 to a publishing deal. So once he started sending out our demos, that's when record companies started, paying attention a little bit. And, it turned into a bidding war. Like I said, it was mixed at first. It kind of grew, and then all of a sudden it seemed like everybody was on board. But we always remembered that Aquarius was the first one. So even though we signed a record deal for the world with Island Def Jam, we kept Canada for Aquarius.
Yeah, there's nothing more you can't ignore. Say it makes no difference to me.
So Half Hour of Power comes out. It's well received. And
For a first release, I think it was.
I think it was. I remember playing the heck out of it on the radio.
Yeah, totally.
And then, so I guess much more touring came, followed by what?
Well, Half Hour Power kind of got us on the road, and we started touring North America, both Canada and the U.S. And while we were sort of doing that, we were planning on what was going to be our full-length album, because Half Hour Power was only an EP, basically. And we took a quick break in mid-2000, maybe late 2000, and went in and recorded All Killer No Filler. It took a bit of time. It wasn't just in one go. We had a couple, periods of recording and touring throughout 2000 and early 2001.
All Killer No Filler comes out, and again, well received.
Yes.
Not only in Canada, but internationally.
Yeah, that was the record that kind of just went everywhere really quickly, which we were, totally surprised by. We had no idea that was going to happen.
You were part of sort of like the end of the punk rock revival of the 1990s and the beginning of this whole indie rock revival in the early 2000s. So you really hit a wave, and you managed to catch it. How many copies did that album sell?
I've never really been good at knowing, statistics of what things have done.
But we're talking millions.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know, but I've been told it's around like 4 million or something like that.
Pretty good for some young guys coming out of Ajax.
Yeah, we were 20 and 21 years old.
Japan was apparently very good to you, wasn't it?
Japan took off with Fat Lip right away, yeah.
More on Sum 41, as told by Deryck Whibley, coming up. This is a two-parter on the complete history of Sum 41, and the guy leading us through the story is frontman and co-founder Deryck Whibley.
All Killer No Filler comes out. Then we move to 2002, and you've got another album, which is the Does This Look Infected record, which has got one of the grossest album covers I've ever seen in my life. And that one was also really quite huge.
Yeah, Does This Look Infected was a funny record for us because we didn't give ourselves any time to make a new record coming to try to follow up from All Killer. There was no time. We had tours booked, and we had 6 weeks off in the middle of it. And that's when we went in and just knocked out this record. I mean, I wrote the songs really quickly. I had a lot of stuff that I'd been working on the road, and then I got home, put it together in a few weeks. We went to the studio for a few more weeks, and then we were out on the road. We actually weren't even finished when we hit the road. We started recording while we were out in Europe. So we were coming, I remember we played Reading and Leeds Festival, and we'd have to drive straight back and go to London the next day, and we were in Olympic Studios finishing up Does This Look Infected there.
This is starting to take a toll.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
So am I still waiting for this world to stop hating? Can't find a good reason, can't find no to believe in.
The title Does This Look Infected comes from just looking at that cover. We had the cover before we had the title. And it came down to the last second. I remember we got a call. We were on tour, and the record company said, if you guys don't finally pick an album title, this record's not coming out this year because we need to know now for artwork and for manufacturing and all this stuff. So we just said, okay, give us an hour. And the four of us sat around with the cover looking at it, and we threw out a bunch of different things. And Does This Look Infected made us all kind of chuckle. And we just thought, all right, that's probably it then.
The Hell Song from Does This Look Infected, the third Sum 41 record. It came out November 26, 2002. Coming up, getting caught in the middle of an African civil war, and a phone call from Iggy Pop as we get more from Deryck Whibley on the history of Sum 41. By the end of 2002, Sum 41 was an international multi-platinum act. They were big enough so that when Iggy Pop started calling around for guest help on his Skull Ring album, the phone rang. Green Day is in for a couple of songs, some was told. Are you in? Of course they were.
What was it like working with Iggy Pop?
Iggy Pop was a great experience and sort of a privilege. I mean, just to be able to just talk to him on the phone once makes it all worth it. I remember the very first time we spoke, we chatted for about 45 minutes, and within 2 minutes of that call, I just remember thinking, like, man, I just feel like we've known each other. He's so comfortable, and he's just so cool, and I just felt like I'd already met him before, and at the end
Considering
of that,
his history and everything that he's gone through, today he's just this wonderfully pleasant man with this incredible background, and he is a joy to talk to.
Yeah, he's great. He is great, and we still talk time to time. Sometimes we'll see him. Sometimes we're lucky enough to be on the same festival together. We saw him. We played together in 2016 in France together, and that was the last time I saw him. But I've spoken to him since then a little bit, and yeah, he's just one of those guys. I feel like it's a privilege to know him.
Deryck and producer Greg Norrie co-wrote this track with Iggy. It's called Little Know-It-All.
We take from one another and never stop to wonder how it feels from the other side. But nothing lasts forever when stupid turns to clever. Why are you surprised? And I feel like
Iggy Pop and the co-write commission with Sum 41 for his 2003 album Skull Ring. That's Little Know-It-All. Back to Deryck Whibley and Sum 41. Their 2004 album was called Chuck. And, well, let's just get Deryck to talk about it.
So we get to the Chuck record, which before you get there, you end up in the Congo.
That's right. Well, so we ended up in the Congo sort of near the end of the recording of Chuck, but before it came out. So we had done a lot of recording. We'd planned to go to the Congo to shoot this documentary on the effects of the Civil War. We went with a group called War Child, and we were to come back and sort of finish up the album. So, yeah, I mean, when we were in the Congo, that didn't go the way we thought it would.
So where were you in the country when everything started going sideways?
I mean, we were just, deep in the center of Congo. And the Civil War that had, there was a ceasefire for about a year and a half there. It just happened to start back up about 10 days into our trip. And we were just caught in the middle of it.
When you say caught in the middle, what does that mean?
We were literally caught in the middle of it because where we were staying, which was a hotel-ish type of place, but on one side of the hotel, there was one rebel group, and on the other side was another rebel group fighting back and forth, and we were literally just in the middle of it. So the hotel, and we had to keep evacuating each room and just, moving out to all these different places because the hotel just kept getting hit with mortar rounds and RPGs and, stray bullets and stuff like that.
I can imagine that. A little freaky.
It was. I mean, I would say it made for a good documentary. But it was definitely... I didn't think we were going to make it out, to be honest. I really didn't.
And Chuck was your UN minder.
Chuck was the guy. He happened to be at the hotel with us. He was with the UN, and he was the one who kept moving us around and keeping us safe from room to room. There's 44 of us there. And he would wrangle us all together and tell us when we could go out. He would go up onto the street and then come running back in, when the fighting would start back up. And he just kept moving us around. And finally, after 3 days of that, he organized... armored tanks to come into the hotel and get us out of there.
And this is where you said, dude, if you are successful in evacuating us, we will name our next album after you?
Exactly. We were, I remember we were sitting there and we'd been in it for about a day and a half. And I remember saying to him, Chuck, if you get us out of this, we're going to name this record after you.
And we're out to blame. We've gone too far from pride to shame. We're trying so hard.
So now we can get to recording the Chuck album, which was recorded in a bunker-like studio across the street from the Hells Angels headquarters in Toronto.
Yes.
And I remember going through, visiting you, and thinking that, wow, this is a really heavy record. But it's really, really melodic at the same time. Did the experience in the Congo have anything to do with the intensity of the record?
I don't know how anything that we go through or I go through comes out in the music, but I can only assume that it does. I don't really ever think about it because whenever I write music, I just pick up a guitar and start writing. And whatever comes out, comes out. So I think these things must have some impact somehow, but I don't really analyze it or think back to it. I just move on. It's just a song. Great, let's get it done. Move on.
Sometimes it's so crazy that nothing can save me, but it's the only thing that I have. If you believe it's in my soul.
By the mid-aughts, Sum 41, generally, and Deryck Whibley, specifically, were starting to run out of gas. It wasn't the music. It was their bodies. Deryck was 25, and things were starting to fail.
When did things start to really take a toll on you?
That's hard to say. I think the constant cycle of touring and recording does get to you at some point. I don't know when it does, though, because it's so normal to you. So you become so used to it. I think the thing that took the biggest toll on me was... and I'm not sitting straight. The biggest thing that took a toll on me was having a back injury. And that is what really started to...
Was that in Japan?
That was in Japan. That was the second time, though. I had injured in Canada in 2007 on stage. And in Japan, I got attacked at a bar by some guys who I don't know.
Okay, let's go back, because I want to focus on that. But so what's wrong with the back?
Well, I have a herniated disc, which is not a crazy injury, but does the way, for whatever reason, they're always different for everybody, right? So the way mine works is it goes straight out towards my spinal cord. So when it came out, it was most unbelievable pain, but it also just kind of cut off the function to my legs for a while. So if it goes out, it hits those nerves, and it just kind of makes my legs useless for a while. And if we're on tour, it means I have to go home. And if I'm anywhere else, I could be stuck there for a while.
Do you know what caused it?
I don't know why it happened, but when I first found out, when it first happened, it was on stage in Calgary.
So, all those years hanging a guitar around your neck can't have helped.
I think it has to do with, jumping around with a guitar for years and years, night after night. Probably what did it. But, it's actually very manageable as long as I take care of it. When I was younger, I didn't know how to take care of it. I didn't want to take care of it necessarily. I just kind of wanted to keep going, doing what we're doing. And I knew that, a few drinks actually makes all the pain kind of go away. And that, I would say, was probably what took the more of a toll, say, on my body and mentally too, because it really brings you down. And the fact that I just wasn't taking care of it properly either.
Well, you're on tour. You're living in L.A., living the L.A. lifestyle.
I don't know if that L.A. had anything to do with it. I think I would have probably been the same no matter what.
So this is, when did the back first go out? It was in Calgary, right?
Calgary, 2007.
2007.
Yeah, and it got better, and I was actually okay for a few years.
And then what happened in Japan when you got beat up?
I still don't really know what happened. I was just, it was a friend of ours has this bar we've been going to for, since we've been going to Japan. It's a really tiny, small little bar, kind of like the Bovine in Toronto. And we were just hanging out. There's very few people in there. And I was waiting for the bathroom, and out of nowhere, it just kind of felt like a train hit me. And just 2 or 3 guys just jumped me from behind and, just kind of beat the shit out of me. And then I just I tried to get up and realized I couldn't stand, and that my back injury was back. And we had to pretty much cancel the rest of the touring for that period of time. I went home, tried to deal with it as best as I could, probably drank too much through the pain, and then just got back out on the road because that's what we do, and then it never really was healed, and I just kept trying to tour through it, and it would act up a lot, and it would just be kind of a chronic pain that I just didn't deal with. I was on tour so much and just thought I could just drink the pain away. And
Sum 41 went on a meteoric rise from 1996 through to 2005. But you could only burn that hard, that bright for so long. Something had to give. And something did give. On the second half of this program on the history of Sum 41, Deryck Whibley will talk about his hospitalization, his recovery, and rehab. We'll discuss lineup changes. And we'll go through how Deryck battled back. Or rather, he'll go through all that because he's very open about his experiences and is a great storyteller. Meanwhile, all these programs are available as a podcast. Just subscribe at Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever. Binge away. Everything is free, of course. You can find out more about music news and opinions through my website, which is ajournalofmusicalthings.com. I update it every day. There's the free daily newsletter that goes along with it, so you won't miss a thing. And you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram all the time. Any follows are welcome. Email to alan@alancross.ca, and we'll see you next time with more from Deryck. Technical production is by Rob Johnston. I'm Alan Cross.